Daniel had not planned to come home early that day. The office had been unusually quiet, and a sudden power issue shut down the systems, sending everyone home. For most people, it was a small break in routine. For Daniel, it felt like a chance. He thought about Alina instantly. It had been weeks since they had spent any real time together. Life had become a loop of work, tired evenings, and silent dinners. He missed her, even though she lived in the same house. On his way back, he stopped at a small bakery near their street. He bought her favorite chocolate pastries, the ones she used to smile about when they were newly married. Back then, even small things made her eyes light up. Daniel held the box carefully, almost like it carried something fragile hope, maybe? He imagined her reaction. Maybe she would smile again. Maybe they would sit together, talk, laugh a little. Maybe things would feel normal again. As he reached the house, he noticed how still everything looked. The curtains were half closed, and the lights inside gave off a soft, calm glow. It felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. He unlocked the door quietly and stepped in, planning to surprise her. He didn't call out her name. Instead, he placed his keys gently on the table and walked further inside. Then he heard her voice. At first, he smiled. Just hearing her felt comforting. But something in her tone made him stop. It wasn't the warm, light voice he knew. It was tired, heavy. He moved a little closer, his steps slow, almost unsure. The sound was coming from the living room. She was on the phone. "I don't know how to explain it," Alina said softly. "It's not like you did something wrong." Daniel's smile faded. He didn't mean to listen, but he couldn't move. His body felt frozen, like his feet were stuck to the floor. "I just don't feel the same anymore," she continued. Those words hit him harder than anything else. He felt his chest tighten. His grip on the pastry box loosened slightly, but he didn't drop it. "Not yet, I mean. He's a good person. He really is. But being around him, it feels heavy sometimes." Daniel blinked as if his mind was trying to reject what he was hearing. Heavy. He had never thought of himself that way. He had always tried to make things easier for her, better for her. He worked long hours, handled responsibilities, stayed calm even when things were stressful. He thought that was what being a good husband meant. But now, standing there, hidden behind a wall, he felt like none of it mattered. "I don't hate him," Alina said again, her voice almost breaking. I don't feel happy." That was the moment something inside Daniel quietly broke. There was no loud crash, no sudden reaction, just a deep, silent crack that spread through him. He didn't wait to hear more. Carefully, he stepped back. Each movement was slow, controlled, like he was afraid any sound would reveal him. He turned around and walked back to the door. His mind was empty, yet full at the same time. Thoughts rushed in, but none of them made sense. As he reached the table, he looked down at the box in his hands. The chocolate pastries. He stared at them for a moment, then placed the box gently beside his keys. For a second, he almost turned back, almost walked into the living room, almost asked her directly, but he detained instead. He opened the door quietly and stepped out. The cool air outside hit his face, but he barely noticed. He closed the door without making a sound, as if he had never come home at all. And just like that, Daniel walked away. He didn't know where he was going. His feet moved on their own, carrying him down the street, past familiar houses, past people who didn't notice him. Everything looked normal around him, but inside, nothing felt the same. Her words kept repeating in his head, "I don't feel the same anymore. Being around him feels heavy. I don't feel happy." Each sentence felt sharper. Every time it replayed, Daniel tried to think back. When did things change? When did she start feeling this way? Had he missed the signs? Or had she been hiding it all along? He remembered the early days of their marriage. The laughter. The long talks. The way she would wait for him by the door when he came home. The small notes she used to leave for him. The way she would hold his hand without thinking. Somewhere along the way, all of that had faded. And he hadn't even noticed when it happened. He reached a small park and sat down on a bench. The sky was turning darker, evening slowly taking over. People walked by, children played, couples talked quietly. Life continued around him as if nothing had changed. But for Daniel, everything had. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, staring at the ground. His thoughts felt heavy, like they were pressing down on him. Was he really that hard to be around? Had he become someone she couldn't stand? The questions had no answers. After a while, he took out his phone. He looked at her contact name, Alina, still saved the same way. His thumb hovered over it, but he didn't press it. What would he even say? I heard you. I know how you feel. None of it felt right, because deep down he knew something simple but painful. If she truly felt that way, then no explanation would change it. He put his phone back in his pocket. The night grew darker, and the park lights turned on one by one. Daniel stood up slowly. He couldn't sit there forever, but he also couldn't go back home. Not yet. Maybe not at all. He started walking again, this time with no clear direction. Hours passed by the time he stopped. He found himself standing in front of a small apartment building across town. It wasn't a place he knew well, but it didn't matter. Right now, he just needed somewhere that wasn't home. Somewhere quiet, somewhere empty, somewhere that didn't remind him of her voice. Back at the house, Alina ended her call and sat quietly on the couch. She felt a strange heaviness in her chest, but she didn't fully understand it. Talking had helped a little, but not enough. She stood up and stretched slightly, then walked toward the kitchen. That's when she noticed something. The box on the table. She frowned, confused. She hadn't bought anything. Slowly, she walked closer and opened it. Chocolate pastries, her favorite. A small smile almost formed on her lips, but it quickly faded. Daniel, he must have come home. Her eyes moved around the room. His keys were there, but he WASN single quotes. Her heart skipped a beat. Daniel. She called out softly, no answer. She checked the bedroom, empty. The bathroom, empty. A strange feeling started to grow inside her. She picked up her phone and called him. It rang and rang, but he didn't pick up. She tried. Again, still nothing. Now the silence in the house didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt wrong, very wrong. Alina stood there, holding the phone tightly, her mind racing. Had he come home and left? But why? Then a sudden thought hit her. Her conversation, her breath caught in her throat. No, she whispered to herself. Had he heard her? The idea made her chest tighten instantly. She looked at the pastries again, untouched, sitting quietly on the table like a message she didn't know how to read. And for the first time, a deep fear began to settle inside her, because if Daniel had heard those words, then maybe he didn't just leave the house. Maybe he walked away from everything. Daniel didn't go back that night. He found a small apartment in a quiet part of the city, the kind of place people passed without noticing. It had plain walls, a narrow window, and just enough space for a bed and a table. It wasn't comfortable, but comfort wasn't what he was looking for. He needed distance. He needed silence that didn't remind him of her voice. The first night felt unreal. He sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing his jacket, staring at nothing. His phone lay beside him, lighting up again and again. Alina was calling. He knew it without looking. He didn't pick up, not because he didn't want to hear her, but because he was afraid of what he might feel if he did. Hours passed, but sleep never came. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard her words again. I don't feel happy. They echoed in the empty room, louder than any sound. He turned to the side, then back again, but nothing helped. By morning, he gave up trying to rest. He got up, washed his face, and looked at himself in the mirror. He barely recognized the man staring back. His eyes looked tired, but deeper than that. They looked lost. He went to work the next day as if nothing had changed. He answered emails, attended meetings, spoke when needed. No one noticed the difference. To the world, Daniel was the same. But inside, everything had shifted. Every small moment reminded him of what he had lost. A couple laughing in the hallway. A message tone from someone else's phone. Even the simple act of drinking coffee felt strange without her sitting across from him. Meanwhile, Alina's world was slowly falling apart. The first day after he left, she tried to stay calm. She told herself he just needed space. Maybe he had gone to a friend's place. Maybe he was upset. Maybe he would come back by evening. But evening came and went, and the door never opened. She called him again and again. Each call went unanswered. She sent messages simple at first. "Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me." But there was no reply. The house felt different now. Every corner held a memory. The couch where they used to sit together. The kitchen where they once cooked and laughed. Even the silence felt heavier, like it was filled with things left unsaid. That night, she couldn't sleep either. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She kept thinking about her words, the way she said them so easily, without realizing how much they could hurt. She didn't mean them the way they sounded. She wasn't unhappy because of Daniel. She was unhappy with herself, with the way life had become dull and distant. But she had spoken carelessly. And now those words had taken a life of their own. By the second day, fear replaced confusion. She started calling his friends, asking if they had seen him. No one had. She even thought about going to his office, but something stopped her. What if he didn't want to see her? Days passed, and the distance between them grew, even without words. Daniel kept his routine simple. Work, return to the apartment, sit in silence. He avoided places they used to visit. He avoided anything that reminded him of her smile. But memories have a way of finding you, no matter how far you go. Sometimes, while walking down the street, he would suddenly remember the way she used to hold his arm. Sometimes he would hear a song and think of the nights they danced in the living room for no reason. Each memory felt like a quiet ache. One evening, after a long day, he sat by the window. The city lights flickered in the distance, but they didn't bring any comfort. He took off his wedding ring and held it in his hand. It felt heavier than usual. He stared at it for a long time, his thoughts drifting. He hadn't taken it off since the day they got married. Not once, but now. Wearing it felt like a lie. Slowly, he placed it on the table beside him. The small sound it made echoed in the room. He looked at it, his chest tight, as if he had just let go of something important. Across town, Alina was holding on to everything she could find. She stopped going out. She stopped meeting friends. Her world became the house and the memories inside it. She cleaned more than usual, as if trying to fill the emptiness with movement. She rearranged things, hoping it would change how the place felt. But nothing worked. One evening, while searching for something to distract herself, she opened an old drawer. Inside, she found a small box. Her hands paused for a moment before opening it. It was filled with pieces of their past. Photos from their early days. Movie tickets they had saved. Small handwritten notes. Daniel used to leave for her. She picked one up and read it slowly. "I'll always choose you." Her eyes filled with tears. Another note. "You're my home." Her breath caught. She sat down on the floor, surrounded by memories she had forgotten to value. Each item told a story. A happy one. A real one. The kind of love people search for but rarely find. And she had let it slip away. Not because it was gone, but because she stopped seeing it. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the truth settled in. She hadn't lost her feelings. She had lost her focus. She had taken his presence for granted, thinking it would always be there now. The silence answered back. That night, she picked up her phone and typed a message. "I didn't mean what you think I meant. Please, can we talk?" She stared at the screen before sending it. Her heart raced as she waited for a reply, but none came. Daniel saw the message. He was sitting on his bed when his phone lit up. He picked it up slowly, his eyes scanning the words again and again. His heart reacted instantly, a mix of hope and pain rising together. He wanted to reply. He really did. But something held him back. What if this was just a moment of guilt for her? What if nothing had truly changed? What if he went back and heard the same words again, maybe in a different way, maybe at a different time? The fear was too strong. He placed the phone down without typing anything. The silence between them grew heavier. Days turned into weeks. Alina didn't stop trying. She sent messages, each one more honest. Then the last. I miss you. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't realize how much. You meant until now? Daniel read every message. He never ignored them, but he didn't reply either. Each word chipped away at the wall he had built around himself. But the cracks weren't enough to bring it down. One night, as rain fell softly outside, Daniel sat alone again. The room felt colder than usual. He reached for the table and picked up his wedding ring. He turned it between his fingers, lost in thought. Memories flooded his mind. Their first meeting, their wedding day. The way she smiled at him when she thought he wasn't looking. He closed his eyes. Holding the ring tightly, he still loved her. That hadn't changed, but love alone didn't erase pain. Just as he was about to put the ring back down, his phone buzzed again. Another message from Alina. I understand if you need time, but please, don't disappear forever. He stared at the screen, his heart beating faster. This message felt different. It wasn't just sadness. It was understanding. And for the first time since he left, Daniel felt something shift inside him. Not fully, not completely, but enough to make him pause. Enough to make him wonder. Maybe the story between them wasn't over yet. Daniel didn't reply that night, but something inside him had already started to change. The message stayed on his screen long after the light faded. Don't disappear forever. He read it again in the morning, then again before leaving for work. It followed him through the day, sitting quietly in his thoughts while he tried to focus on everything else. He wasn't angry anymore. That feeling had faded into something deeper, a quiet ache, a question that wouldn't go away. If she really understood now, if she truly meant what she said, then what was he still running from? That evening, he didn't go straight back to his apartment. Instead, he walked without direction, letting the city guide him. The air was cool and the streets were calm. People passed by, busy with their own lives, their own stories. Daniel watched them for a moment, noticing something he hadn't allowed himself to see before. Not every couple looked perfect. Not every face carried happiness. But many still walked side by side. Maybe love wasn't about never feeling lost. Maybe it was about finding your way back. The thought stayed with him as he finally stopped walking. When he looked up, he realized where he was, standing right in front of his house. He hadn't planned it. His feet had simply brought him there. The place looked the same, but it felt different. The lights were on inside, soft and warm, just like that evening. For a moment he stood still, his heart beating faster. Memories rushed in without warning. The first day they moved in, the laughter, the late-night talks, the quiet mornings, everything they built was still inside those walls. He took a slow breath and stepped closer to the door. His hand lifted slightly, then paused in the air. Doubt returned for a second. What if nothing had changed? What if this ended the same way it began, quietly breaking? But then he remembered her message. Please, don't disappear forever. His hand moved before his thoughts could stop him. He rang the bell. Inside, Alina froze. She had been sitting on the couch, holding her phone, reading their old messages again. It had become a habit. Something to fill the silence. When the doorbell rang, her heart skipped instantly. She wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, she didn't move. Then it rang again. Slowly, she stood up. Her steps felt uncertain as she walked toward the door. Something deep inside her already knew. When she opened it, time seemed to stop. Daniel stood there, tired, quiet, but real. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Alina's eyes filled with tears almost instantly. She had imagined this moment so many times. But now that it was real, she didn't know what to say. I thought I lost you, she whispered, her voice shaking. Daniel looked at her, his expression calm but heavy with emotion. I thought you already had. The words weren't sharp. They were soft, but they carried everything he had been feeling. Alina lowered her gaze for a second, then looked back at him. "I was wrong," she said quietly, "about everything." Daniel didn't move. He stayed where he was, just outside the door, as if he wasn't sure if he still belonged inside. "I didn't understand what I was feeling," she continued. "I thought I was unhappy because of us. But I was just lost. In my own thoughts, in my own routine. And I let that confusion turn into something hurtful." Daniel listened, his face unreadable, but his eyes showed he was taking in every word. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice breaking. "But I did, and I can't take that back. I can only tell you the truth now." The silence between them felt different this time. It wasn't empty. It was full of things waiting to be said. Daniel finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me before it got to that point?" The question wasn't angry. It was honest. Alina took a breath. "Because I didn't even understand it myself. I kept thinking it would pass, that I would feel normal again. But instead of talking to you, I kept it inside, and it changed the way I acted without me realizing it." Daniel nodded slowly. He understood that feeling more than he wanted to admit. "I never stopped loving you," she added quickly. "Not even for a second." That made him look at her differently. "Then why did it feel like I wasn't enough?" he asked, his voice lower now. Alina stepped closer, just a little. "Because I stopped showing you what you meant to me. I got comfortable. I stopped noticing the small things you did. I stopped saying thank you. I stopped choosing you every day, even though you kept choosing me." Her words were simple, but they hit deeply. Daniel looked away for a moment, taking it in. He thought about all the nights he came home tired, all the times he tried to keep things steady, all the quiet efforts he made without expecting anything back. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you," he said after a pause. "I left because it felt like staying would slowly break me." Alina nodded, tears falling freely now. "I know, and I'm sorry I made you feel that way." Another silence followed, but this time it felt softer. Daniel looked back at her, really looked at her. He saw the difference. Not in how she looked, but in how she spoke. There was no confusion now, no distance, just honesty. "And now?" he asked. Alina didn't hesitate. "Now I know that love isn't just a feeling that stays the same every day. It changes. It gets quiet sometimes, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It just means we have to take care of it." Daniel stayed quiet, letting her words settle. "I want to try again," she said gently. "Not like before. Better, slower, honest this time." He stepped a little closer to the door, but still didn't enter. "What if things go back to how they were?" he asked. "They won't," she said softly, "because now I know what happens if we stop trying." Her answer was simple, but it carried weight. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside him again. The fear was still there, but it wasn't as strong as before. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it wasn't controlling him anymore. Carefully, he stepped inside. The house felt familiar but different at the same time. The air carried a sense of something new, something uncertain but hopeful. Alina closed the door behind him, her heart still racing. They didn't rush into anything. They didn't pretend everything was fixed. Instead, they sat down in the living room, facing each other like two people meeting again for the first time. They talked. Not about everything at once, but enough to begin. About what went wrong. About what they felt. About what they needed moving forward. There were moments of silence, but they weren't uncomfortable. They were thoughtful. At one point, Daniel noticed the box on the table. The pastries, still there, untouched. He looked at them, then at her. "You didn't eat them?" he asked quietly. Alina shook her head. "I was waiting." A small, real smile appeared on his face for the first time in days. He opened the box and placed it between them. They shared the pastries in silence, but it didn't feel empty. It felt calm. Later that night, nothing dramatic happened. No big promises. No perfect ending. Just two people choosing to stay. Choosing to try. Choosing each other again. And sometimes that choice is where real love begins.